Hello and welcome back to Identity Architects, the podcast that's dedicated to spotlighting individuals who are changing the way that data is used to deliver better customer experiences. I'm your host Ben Cicchetti, and for this episode, our Director of Business Development, Val Mercurio, spoke with Stéphane Dugelay, founder and CTO at mediarithmics. Val and Stéphane had a fascinating discussion about the future of targeting, opportunities through collaboration, the relationship with consumers, and much, much more. Before I hand it over to Val and Stéphane, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button so you know when the next episode of Identity Architects lands. But now, without any further delay, here's Val and Stéphane.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So for today's Identity Architects, we are here with Stéphane Dugelay. And before we kind of get started, it would be great, Stéphane, for you to give us a background, obviously, as the founder and CTO of mediarithmics, just a little bit of background on yourself and mediarithmics.
So first of all, thank you very much, Valerie, to have invited me in this podcast. I am the founder of mediarithmics, but before that, I had professional experience both in strategic marketing and technology, and my objective when I founded mediarithmics was really to propose something new and special in the digital landscape, and more precisely in data marketing. But I think we'll discuss about that in the podcast.
Awesome. That's great. And it's really exciting, obviously, mediarithmics being one of our strategic partners as we think about moving into new ecosystems and what the InfoSum team is building. So to kind of get us started, we flipped the switch in our previous identity architects. And so starting off with some of these quick fire questions, just to understand a little bit more about you. So are you ready for the quick fire questions?
Yes.
Awesome. So the first one that we have is, what is your earliest memory of advertising and marketing?
I must confess, it's a very long time ago. My first job was with a consulting company named Andersen Consulting, which was the company that became Accenture quite later. And I was a trainee in Chicago, because in the Chicago office of Andersen Consulting, they had this new digital factory, multimedia factory, where we worked on new media and connected TV. It was a long time ago. And Google was really new on the market. I mean, Google just appeared when I was doing this trainee. And I read a lot on the business model on Google, the paid search advertising, the open bidding model. And I was completely amazed by the way it will change the future of advertising. I was a very young strategic consultant, but I mean, it was very clear for all of us in this multimedia factory that performance marketing will be certainly a key trend in modern marketing. So yeah, it was a long time ago, and it started basically with search advertising on Google.
Awesome. That's great. And it is wild to think about, even since then, probably how much the ecosystem has evolved.
Yes.
And kind of going back to that, I would say, knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself when you started your career?
When I started, I was very curious of many different topics around digital transformation, digital economy, how it will transform all kind of businesses. But the one thing maybe I would have liked to know at the beginning was about people. I mean, it's very difficult to change people are thinking, to change how people are doing marketing. And what I see today also in the market is that technology is going faster than how people can transform and move. And yes, this is this is difficult,
Yeah.
and this is part of what we do with mediarithmics. We try to explain, we try to train, we try to give context on, for example, this very complex topic of the end of third-party cookies and identity and so on. So that's why I'm very happy also to have this podcast today, because I think that this is certainly the most important challenge in this industry. It's people understanding what's happening.
Yes, and certainly being really agile, and it's consistently changing. So I think that is great advice to your younger self.
Yeah.
And what would you say that you love about what you're doing right now in the industry that you're in?
I think we are at a moment where the questions of regarding data management, data marketing inside the digital economy is really a cornerstone, because it's both in the public through all the questions regarding data privacy, but it's
Yeah.
also it's in the economy, because many different brands in Europe or in the world are now in competition with big American or Japanese or Chinese platforms. Maybe Japanese tomorrow, I don't know. Um, and because those players are very strong at data management and very strong in terms of first-party data, and um, it puts many brands in a fierce competition. So um, it's a way for us to help. I will explain later how we can help those brands to compete. And on the last topic, which is the political one, um, in terms of geopolitics, the question of data sovereignty is in the agenda of most political leaders in the world. So we know that it has certainly changed for the last 2 weeks, but it will remain a very strong question for the years to come. So it's very interesting for a company like mediarithmics and for me as a leader within this organization to be part of this historical moment.
Absolutely. And that is such an exciting place to be, certainly. And to take a step back, even from that, I think as we think about our industry and evolving and growing, recently we hear so much about this concept of identity. And from your perspective, how would you explain the term identity to a 10-year-old?
Um, for me, it's very simple. I don't know if it's the right answer, but for me, identity is a way to give a name to a person. So if I had to explain to my young daughter, this is what I would say. It's a way to talk about someone, even if you don't know this person. If you are able to give him a name or give her a name, and then you can describe her, you can describe him, and say, oh yeah, this is his history, and so and so. Uh, so putting it differently, it's a way to reference someone, and depending on the context, you could attach different attributes to this name. It can be a birth date, a gender, a nationality, more information. But the beginning is you are able to put a name. It's like language and those kind of things. And if you are able to put a word on the concept, it's the starting point.
Certainly, and that makes a lot of sense. And as we're moving right through the quick fire questions, what would you say it is that keeps you awake at night?
First of all, I'm a very optimistic person, and I have a very good sleep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We have to learn from you.
um, and if I look at our industry, I'm quite optimistic, because we know that we have a strong transition that is coming in front of us. But I see also very strong market trends to find solution and to converge on some balance situation where both data privacy is considered, but also diversity in technology and data providers and the ecosystem. Diversity in the ecosystem is also considered. And maybe with the help also of our government, with the idea that data governance and data sovereignty should be also in the agenda. I think we have the right mix to be optimistic.
Yeah, that is
But
so empowering,
yeah,
honestly. And I think that's a great positioning if we think about, okay, it's not the things that keep you awake at night are almost the things that get you up in the morning. And the fact that you can sit here and say that, you get a great night's sleep, I think that's just really telling that mediarithmics is doing the right thing and on the right track. And so, at the same time, what are the things then after your great night of sleep, because you're sleeping so well, what are the things that are getting you up in the morning? What's motivating you?
my role in the organization is really to help to architecture and develop the best technical solutions to help our clients. So yes, my strongest motivation is to help the whole product team, engineering team, to provide the best software solution to solve technical issues. This is an industry where we have very strong technical issues because we want to manage billions of data points at speed, at low
Yes.
cost, with strong regulations. So many different requirements and constraints, and it's going very fast. But this is this is what's really motivates me at the morning, and I think that my technical team also is quite motivated with the same reason.
Awesome. And as we wrap up our quickfire questions, we're going to do a hard pivot to my favorite question. And that is understanding if there was a song that was a soundtrack to your life, what would it be?
It's not the soundtrack of my life because maybe one soundtrack would be not enough. When I was younger in engineering school, I was the DJ for the university party, so I had this particular role. But I must confess that when I was a teenager, I was deeply in love with Annie Lennox from Eurythmics.
Yes.
And the name of mediarithmics is not very, there is a connection to that because it's the combination of media and algorithmics. So it stands as media rhythmics. But when we were searching a name for the company, um, it came in the discussion, and I say, "Oh yes, I love this. It reminds me of Eurythmics." So I would say that my at least the soundtrack of Mediarithmics Life is Sweet Dreams Are Made of This.
That is amazing. I love that. And that is a great song. That is great. So, thank you so much for going through those quick fire questions. And as we transition, I think let's dive into the thick of it as we think about more of these deep dive into the industry. And so, to kick off on kind of the deeper dive, I think the first question is 2023 is certainly getting closer. And as it's getting closer, so is the cookieless era. And from your perspective, are you prepared for a post third party cookie world? And what three things would you recommend to every brand and advertiser to be focused on in 2022 to prepare for that cookieless future?
Obviously, as a company in this industry, we started for this long journey 2 years ago, and we are prepared both as a product organization, but also more broadly as an organization that is serving large corporate in Europe and in the world. Um, we have put in place many different options for our clients to be able to continue to grow their business and do targeted advertising tomorrow. I think that my recommendation is now for them to prepare their transition project, because we have many options. Many options are available in the market, and certainly that for each organization there is a different set of ingredients that need to be put in place to be sure that depending on their dependency to third-party cookies, they can switch nicely. But I feel like the project is not really started in those organizations. So I would really recommend at least a third step project where they start with an audit of what is their dependency to third-party cookies, what is their their data assets, what are their data assets in terms of first-party data, then looking with their technology providers to the kind of options they can put in place. So design the transition based on the audit. Yes, for example, you could imagine that you will put in place data clean rooms, and maybe you will have some contextual targeting, and maybe you will see also when the privacy sandbox is okay, what kind of scenarios can be put in place for these use cases. But really, to start to design the plan and to roll out the plan depending on the availabilities of the technos, because some technos are not really available. It's a silly situation where we know that we have to move, but we don't know yet to which technical option. But this is not the reason why we should not move. I mean, the best option is to start the transition program, and this is my advice.
Certainly. And I couldn't agree more on that as we think about this year. I always refer to 2022, and even last year, it's really how do teams start thinking about it? And it's painful. And anytime you have to change a historic, way of working and you have to move, it's a lot of work. It involves a lot of teams, but really being able to prepare for this future of advertising and what it looks like, it's so important to start preparing and start somewhere. So I definitely resonate with that. And moving into our next topic, right, as we think, Google just recently announced the removal of Flock and introduced its new tools, Topics. And so how do you perceive that announcement, and does that change anything for you and the mediarithmics team?
So this announcement is no surprise, because there was so much concern on this Flock ID, that the new proposal by Google to the privacy sandbox community seems to provide something that is more acceptable. And being more acceptable, it is also certainly it comes with a different trade-off. Topics can be interesting in terms of it can provide some high-level targeting capabilities, but to be honest, it's really for what I would call upper funnel or brand campaign, where you are not targeting intent, so people in market looking for a mobile phone or a car or an insurance, but you are targeting for more topics of interest. So it's more upper funnel. It's not as sophisticated as Flock could have been, but Flock, it was more a black box than a true targeting technology. It's not a silly ID. I mean, basically, Flock is something that we are introducing within mediarithmics for our own. I mean, it's a good idea if you want to do, for example, lookalike on your own first-party data. You could use the Flock ID within your own first-party data to create cohorts, hundreds of cohorts, and then use those cohorts in different scenarios. Because in this situation, this is quite a very performant option. But as a public option for the rest of the ecosystem, it was not a good option.
Awesome. That makes so much sense, and definitely understanding. And one of the great things about being ahead and being so educated in the market, knowing that these things are coming. And I love to hear that you weren't even surprised,
Yeah.
right? Because you had already understood really a lot about what the team was doing and where the world was heading. So that is great. And that's why you sleep so well at night. You're ahead of everything. And so, I mean, there seems to be a million answers to the cookieless future, and a lot of companies are out there claiming that their solutions are the only way forward. And where do you think that the industry is going? And do you think that we're going to end up with a single solution that solves for everything? Or will it really be this hybrid approach with a range of options?
So maybe to answer this question, I'd like to point out a usual confusion I see when discussing about targeting solutions or addressability issues. There is a confusion between addressability and targeting. Addressability is the idea that you can, using a proxy or a token or a name to identify someone, you can basically display, send a message to a user. So it's kind of targeting. But you can also do some very interesting targeting without addressability or even without consent. Because usually addressability comes with the consent, and we have this issue with the third-party cookie, but this is not the only issue in the market, because collecting the consent is certainly the next issue, and it is becoming maybe the bigger issue than the issue of the identification. And really, the important topic is, or the business requirement is targeting. It's not addressability. Because marketers want to be able to target the message to optimize their budget, to optimize customer engagement. So having said that, the market tomorrow will certainly a mix, so an hybrid solution where you will have both technologies that are very precise, certainly based on identity technology, that will enable addressable media, but we will also see different options in targeting, like the next generation of media planning that we could call panel-based contextual targeting. I don't know the name, but let's say next generation of media planning. We will certainly see some features in the privacy sandbox, which are not addressable, but close to. There is still... I will put a bet on Fledge. Maybe we will have another podcast in 6 months and 1 year from now, and we will see if my bet is a good bet. But I think that Fledge will be certainly one of the options within the privacy sandbox. So as a conclusion to this long answer, yes, the world will be an hybrid world where you will need to manage different options for your targeting purpose. Keeping in mind that addressability is not equal to targeting.
Certainly. And that's a really great point to make as we think about, to our earlier conversation about the planning that's happening this year. And it really is about people understanding the tools that they are selecting and testing to see what's going to fit their business model best. And one of the things that I wanted to spend a little bit of time going through is more and more of the common tools that the industry uses they're up for question now, right? There's a lot more eyes on the tools that teams are using. And so, for example, in February of 2022, the French Data Protection Agency, CNIL, concluded that the use of Google Analytics is illegal under GDPR. And so when things can change so quickly with tools that are part of brands and advertisers, everyone's day-to-day life. How can that affect mediarithmics and your clients? And how does that potentially affect the consumer?
It's a very good question. It is very interesting because this decision came something like 2 weeks after the decision of the Belgium equivalent to CNIL that says that the transparency content framework is illegal in Europe. So all the IAB work is illegal in Europe. These are interesting decisions, but it is too big to have a real impact. I mean, it's too big. It's impossible for European advertisers and publishers to stop using IAB technology because this is how it works. So the transparency consent framework may need some improvement, but it will not disappear. I would say the same for Google Analytics. Certainly, that Google will come back with a solution for the data privacy concern. But it's very good for the long-term aspect of those decisions because it creates in the mindset of decision maker some idea that, okay, maybe we should keep in mind that independence and sovereignty is also part of the decision for the next decision, the next selection of a technology. Sorry. It is too soon now to say that Google Analytics will lose some market share in Europe. But I think it is fair to say that decision maker will be certainly looking at different options. So it's a good signal for diversity in this market.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. And I think it's really powerful to think about it. And it's almost forcing us into that agile environment where everyone has to be prepared for any of these changes and making sure that they're building that really appropriate tech stack to grow their businesses as well. And thinking about that, I mean, at the end of the day, marketing really is all about the consumers and their needs. And that includes data privacy and shifting away from third-party cookies. What are some of the challenges that your clients face, and how does mediarithmics support them?
Our clients are large brands operating a business with usually millions of users, even in either in the TV business, so TV broadcasting, more traditional publishing and media business or retail business. And they need to create and maintain a very good, transparent relationship with their clients regarding the usage of data. And to create this confidence between consumer and brands, you need to prove that what you do on an everyday basis is both compliant with the regulation, but also customized to the user needs and requirements. So within mediarithmics, we've decided quite a long time ago, it's now 3 years, to introduce directly in the software privacy features, privacy by design, I would say. So all the data processing that are required as a declaration by the regulation are first-kind citizens in the platform. So you need to declare them to use mediarithmics as a corporation. And then consent are collected at the user level. We have automatic rules that block some campaigns to be sure that even a trainee in the marketing organization or someone that has no clue about to create a segment will know, do some mess with marketing campaigns. So we have a watchdog inside mediarithmics that watch that everything is so it's quite complex, but it is very powerful for our clients. And I would say that yes, this is a strong requirement. Another one that is also very important is to be sure that any change in the consent of a user is immediately introduced in the system, so that there is a very good synchronization, ideally live synchronization between the different systems. Because as we work with large corporations, they usually have a system to send email that is not really connected to the web or the web app or the mobile app and so on. So as a core platform, as a data platform, we are also here to help them to connect this live, to be sure that when there is some consent that is removed, the next email campaign is not sent. And when you are a multi-billion euro organization, you don't want to pay even a small percent of your revenue because it is proven that you have no synchronization between your consent and your marketing practice.
Awesome. I think that is a really great way to put it as we think about, what your team is building and the way that mediarithmics is truly looking at the future and looking after your clients. So that's really great, really relevant information. And with the removal of trust and privacy barriers associated with data sharing, we are seeing more and more brands collaborate. And how would you like to see brands and media owners engaging with each other in the future?
I think this is absolutely necessary, and this is also easier and easier every day. Why is it necessary? It's very simple. The power of data comes with the volume. So the more volume, the more power. So this is why Google is so strong and Amazon is so strong and Facebook is so strong. It's just basically because they have hundreds of millions of users that bring them a lot of very interesting data on social habits and also on intent, if we look at Amazon. But
Yeah.
when we look at smaller brands, in terms of data ownership, the only way for them to compete is to collaborate. So collaboration between brands and media is very important. Collaboration between retailers is important. Collaboration between competitors could also be an option and has to be an option. And the good news is that it's easier and easier every day. We have good example between InfoSum and mediarithmics because we work now for 2 years with Channel 4 in the UK, and we have over situation where there is an everyday collaboration between brands and media. And I think this is absolutely necessary due to this volume effect on data performance.
Yes, and that makes so much sense. And I think it's a lot more beneficial the more and more that we think about collaboration and finding that power of your data. It really is, as we move to this world where first party data is essentially a lifeline to your marketing campaigns and your strategy, and how are you getting the most out of that. And so, how can brands or companies who are traditionally competitors utilize technology to collaborate together? And what would competitive collaboration look like in practice?
Um, it's difficult to give a general answer to that because seeing competitors working together is still quite rare. We have this chance. I mean, we operate at least 2 different alliances, one in France and one in Caribbean islands, where different companies, telecom operators, media publishers, TV broadcasters, very often competitors on the same market, have decided to join forces, to join their data, to create a bigger, more powerful privacy, private garden. And yes, and this is possible because they know that the technology that operates those alliances can maintain the silos. This is very important to be sure that your data will not disappear or be leaked to another competitor. So yes, it's important for those kinds of collaboration that the operator of the technology is a trusted third party. But knowing that, yeah, it's possible. And then we think this is also a very interesting opportunities for different players in smaller market. Like, I mean, European markets are small market compared to American market or Chinese market. So competition should not be seen at a local level. I mean, competition should be seen at a European level. I mean, the true competitor of a retailer in France is not another retailer in France. The true competitor is Amazon. The same for a TV broadcaster in France. It's not the other TV broadcaster. It's Netflix and Amazon Prime. So knowing that, it's a very good driver for those companies to work together.
Certainly. And with that, I can't believe it, but we are already at our final question. And so I think I've learned so much in kind of walking through these questions, and I can just feel the passion that you have for mediarithmics and that the team, what the team has built and what you're continuously building, which is certainly incredible. But before we depart, what do you want or need to say that you haven't already mentioned? Is there anything that you want to add to leave us with today?
Or maybe it's obvious, but I didn't mention it. I would say that first-party data is key. I mean, it should be at the first topic in the agenda of all CEO, CMOs today. So the data that you can collect under your own organization, whatever the source is, because you could have many different sources if you really look at the whole organization. This data is key because this is the foundation for the rest. I mean, if you don't have any first-party data, it will be quite difficult to build on top. Because most of the possible extension in the targeting landscape or the addressable media is based around the idea that you could use some sort of first-party data, use AI, use next-gen media planning, use privacy sandbox, use data clean rooms to do better. But you need to start somewhere. I mean, you absolutely need to focus on your first-party data, and this is my conclusion. This is also why I'm confident, because I know that most organizations have understood that, and they are working hard on that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Stéphane. It was really great to hear your perspective, and definitely just continuously learning as our conversation evolves. So I am so appreciative, and thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you very much, Valerie. And yes, I'll be happy to come back. Maybe just before the transition, for the transition of the millennium, we could have this transition to the cookie maybe the day before.
Yes.
Could be fun to have a party for that.
Yes, we will. We'll be prepared. We'll bring our first party data.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Stéphane for joining us for this episode of Identity Architects. That was a really great discussion about the future of the advertising industry, trends we're seeing right now around targeting and collaboration, and how those opportunities will manifest in the future. If you'd like to be a guest on Identity Architects, or if you'd like to nominate someone to be on the podcast, don't forget that you can reach out to us directly on podcasts@infosum.com. All that leaves for me to do is to remind you to hit that subscribe button wherever you're enjoying this podcast so you know when the next episode of Identity Architects lands. But until then, thanks for listening.